Stuff I Want to Say with me, Chad Brooks. So some of you might be thinking, where did this guy go? I've been really quiet for a long time. The only thing I do really much anymore is you can find me on social media a little bit, but I'm not as ravenous as I once was. But I keep coming back to missing this genre. I recorded a podcast with one of my staff members a couple of days ago, and I can't get podcasting out of me. And I've been taking some time this last year really to think about what is crucial to who I am. But also as part of that, how do I go about the world? How do I live and exist in this place? And I have continued to think back to how much I love this genre of communication and how much I've gotten out of it, how much other people have gotten out of it. And it's this thing that I can't stop away from. So I'm considering making this a regular thing again. But I came up with something, and part of the reason that I've not wanted to do anything is I've not really realized how is the proper way to do that. And this morning I had a thought, and I realized this is the thing that I've been thinking about and I've been trying to find, and this is the perfect way to have this conversation in the way that I want to have this conversation, because this is stuff I want to say. I get the privilege of being oddly self-focused when I do that. That's kind of the whole point of the thing. Stuff I want to say. So we're jumping back into this a little bit with a good entry point. But let me ask you a question before we do so. Have you ever had a friend that's a weather person? Like, think about it. Like, not have you ever had a friend that works at the TV station or at the newspaper or a media outlet as a weather person, but have you ever had a friend that was a weather person, like, as a hobby? Let me tell you what. Weather people are different. I was on a training trip a couple of years ago, and it was before a hurricane. I can't remember which hurricane it was, but it hit the North Carolina coast. I was in North Carolina. I think I was on the other side of the mountains, but people were starting to get nervous. And I had a new friend there who's here from Louisiana. He's a pastor, and he pulls out his iPad, and he logs into some stuff, and he opens up some apps, and he starts predicting things that, frankly, seemed like witchcraft. I was just like, how do you know these things? He's like, well, in about 8 hours, it's going to do this and this. And he was proving to consistently be correct. And I was like, Doug, how do you know these things? And he just began to explain to me the scientific factors that go into predicting the weather. And then he also... And he's been doing this for a long time. It's been a hobby of his entire life. And he's older than I am. And one of the things he said, he says, Chad, after a time, you just begin to learn to know what to trust. And it's partly your gut, but it's also part of just watching things for years and years and years. Weather people know what's going to happen. So much of my own last year has been based off of trying to reformat the way that I walk and live through the world. If you're new to all of this, just go back on RevChadBrooks.com and you can see some things that might talk about it. But to make a long story short, I found out that I had a genetic heart condition. I almost died in March, and it made me just begin to rethink every single thing. Now, I've always been a person who wants to think about mindfulness and outcomes and productivity and those sorts of things. But I realized the ways that I had been focusing on that for almost 5 years nearly killed me. So I dropped everything. I stopped doing so many things. There are people that are listening to this that have sent me messages and I don't even open them. Like, I have tried to make my world as small as possible over the last 9, 10, 11 months now. And so that's why one of the reasons I've just consistently gone dark. And what I've been doing in that process, though, is really beginning to understand my own personal equilibrium. Like, where is my body at a resting state? What are the things that my mind needs to be doing? The way I look at outcomes and actions, just the whole 9 yards is an investigation about personal equilibrium. And one of the things that around this summer I picked up doing, just trying to figure out this, I always knew that there were certain things that I needed to do, certain things that I had to do, certain things. I began thinking about, okay, what are the things I need to have in life to live in a more peaceful state and a less chaotic state? And so much of that was taken from a good friend of mine, J.D. Walt, who I worked for 4 or 5 years. And JD always made us give our peacefulness number and our chaos number. And he would track those individually. He would also track those as a team. It was a long form experiment that he had where he was curious about how peacefulness as a spiritual discipline looked in the lives of those who were leading other people. And so pieces of this I've been aware of for, over a decade. So I built out a bullet journal, tracking my peace, tracking my chaos, and tracking my sleep as primary things. And then I made a list of positive and negative things that I do. And I sorted that out to where every day I could make note of what are the positive things I did this week to this day, what were the negative things I did this day, a little bit of space to journal over what my day was like. And then I noted my peace, I noted my chaos, and I noted my sleep, and just beginning to learn and investigate personal equilibrium. So I'm driving to the office this morning, taking care of a couple of things in my head first, and I began thinking about, like I said, I'm starting to dip my toe back into things a little bit. And I realized that I'd been thinking about my website, about some stuff I needed to do to update it. I had not done a major overhaul on that website in years. And I realized that the only posts that I pretty much have kept up on there regular have been my reading posts. And so every month I go in and I list every book I read with a short paragraph of a review on it. And I realized that I have not written anything for this month. And I've not written anything for this month because I've not finished a book this month. And if I've not finished a book, that meant I've not really read that much, which is the truth. And this should be a warning sign for me, because me having the time to read is a thing that I love, is a thing that calms me. It's a thing that relaxes me. It's a thing that does all of the things. And when I've neglected something that's that major to my peacefulness, I need to take a lesson from my weather friend and realize that a storm system can be brewing. And unlike the weather, I have the potential to do things to hold the storm system back. For me, one of those things is I need to go back to the process of reading. I need to also think about why I've not read. What are the things I can do to stop it on that end? It's a multi-pronged approach to keeping calm weather at my center. So take a few moments to think about what are your points are. What are the markers of your own personal weather system that tell a story that calm skies are ahead, that the sun is out, and that everything is good? What are the points in your life those things are? If you want to take it a step further, just do a YouTube search for a bullet journal tracker, and you can see how there's no need for me to tell you how I do it, because that's what I did. I just YouTubed it and saw what other people were doing and kind of made up my own personal thing. But think about what your points are, and if you so want to, begin tracking those points. So a couple quick things about what I'm reading, what I'm doing. I like kind of sharing that. But I'm reading the Song of Solomon a lot right now because I'm going to be preaching on it in March. And so I'm spending time reading the song. I'm spending time reading about the song. Just trying to get around that as much as possible before I have to start writing those messages. I want to just begin making that. It's one of those books of the Bible that very rarely do people have like great familiarity with. I can jump around Deuteronomy. I can jump around Acts. I can jump around all four of the Gospels. I can really jump around Revelation. I can do a good job getting around 1st and 2nd Kings. I cannot get around song whatsoever at all. And I want to fix that before I preach it for a few weeks and talk about relationships. So it's really, you realize how awkward it is when you're reading a book about the Song of Songs in public and you start trying to hide it from people because you don't want them to think that you're icky of any sort. So I've been reading a lot about that. I've also been reading a lot of Thomas Bandy's work on the social research side of church health. I find that fascinating. I bought almost all of his books last month, and I wanted to read them all in February, but that did not happen. Something I've also been thinking about, have you ever heard of the Bible Shred? I saw it on Instagram, I think on Miriam Swafford's feed, and she's on a sabbatical right now, and she said she's been doing the Bible Shred. The Bible Shred is reading the whole Bible in 30 days. It's extremely interesting. I might post some links in the show notes about what that looks like, but it sounds crazy. But then again, my friend Aaron Mansfield just read the whole Bible like in 18 days. I don't have the time. I don't have the margin to do that right now, but I really want to do it soon. And then I've been thinking a lot. I've been drawing a lot. I've been making some sketches and trying to, I'm fascinated with studying the healthy churches that I think will still be around in 50 years. And especially, I can't find a name for it just yet, but there's this type of church that I've been aware of for the last 10 years that seem to be resilient. And they're able to reach the people that culture, especially Christian culture, has failed to reach. And I'm being kind of creepy and church stalking them on social media and kind of stalking their pastors and trying to listen to those sorts of things because I want to know, what is it going to take, or what does a church that truly, truly digs deep into culture, what does that look like? Because I have the suspicious feeling it does not look like what the church is now. And an even more suspicious feeling that it will not look like the church, but that it will actually even look more like the church, if that makes sense. So anyway, this is Chad Brooks. This is Stuff I Want to Say. Thanks for tuning in again. Would love to hear your feedback. You can comment on the show notes post. I got to think of what the name is, but just comment on the show notes or hit me back on social. Thanks so much for digging into this with us today.